And it was good. Ladies and gentlemen, they call me Uncle Kage. I don't know why. Those of you who have no idea what you're doing in the audience, I'm going to explain to you. I basically am a dirty old drunk who gets up here and just makes noises with his face and keeps drinking this until he throws up on himself and falls over. Pretty accurate, wouldn't you say?
You should really come to Scotland.
That's a national sport. That fine, handsome gentleman with the sexy accent standing to my right, that's Mr. Fox Moore. You've all heard of him. I'm not sure how we started doing this. I think that, what, did I crash your concert or something? How did we start doing this?
I think my concert ran a wee bit over time than what it should have done.
That's it. I got busy, so I got up there and I just started.
Yeah, you just started while I was still leaving.
And it was like, dude, this is kind of working out.
Yep.
So we decided we would do this again a couple times, and it does seem to be working. I'm going to move this chair back a little so I don't like it. Yeah, I got room. So, this indeed, some of you who went to Anthropon might have seen me spill the wine on stage, and I'm not going to have rice. So, has anybody out there never seen something like this before? Okay, oh, in the dark, there's this shadows of hands going, I can't see you. All right, never mind. Basically, pretty much, I start telling the news stories at Anthrocon, which was just 3 weeks ago. So if you were at Anthrocon, I'm sorry, it's pretty much going to be the same stories. There really is not much that could happen to me in 3 weeks, thank God. So I hope you're not disappointed. Also, if you're videotaping this, that's all well and good, but kindly don't put it up on YouTube. You know, there's people out there that, yeah, well, they'll see the punchline come in, and that would get me very, very upset with you. And you don't want me to get upset with you now, do you? It's the music. It does it to me. So many of you may know that up until recently, I was a resident of the great state of Pennsylvania, and I now live a little bit further south. I'd moved to North Carolina, Research Triangle area. Thank you, one person in the audience. That was very kind of you. Pretty close to it, yeah. The area that I'm in, as a matter of fact, is the area where the toothbrush was invented. Anywhere else, it would have been called a teeth brush. Hey, I live there, I'm telling you. It's been a year since I've been living there now, and already some adventures have come my way, sadly. A few of you who follow my Twitter twat on the line there, I will sometimes see, I'll send a little tweet out that says something like, I like getting news stories to tell, but I don't like the getting of news stories to tell, if you know what I mean. For example, foreshadowing. I moved in to this wonderful, wonderful condominium on a lake. It's gorgeous, very, very idyllic and pretty and everything. And I moved in the summertime and was having a grand old time in my brand new condo, and it got into fall and was gorgeous. Looked outside, all that wonderful foliage out there, and we started to get into October, and I started to realize, oh, it's getting a little chilly out there. It's going down to, at least 68 degrees. That's going to be terribly cold. So I thought it's time to turn on the heat. So I flicked on the old heat, and I noticed after a while it really wasn't getting very warm. And they got this air coming out of the ceiling, put my hand up, and it was cold coming out. I said, well, North Carolina, they like their air conditioning down here so much that they just can't stop. Oh no. That wasn't it. I asked the neighbor, no, she had heat. So I thought, okay, I got a home warranty. See, I'm smart. I'm a smart homeowner. I bought a home warranty. So I called up the home warranty company and said, okay, guess what? My heat don't work. Send somebody out. And then I went to work and waited. 3-4 days went by. It was starting to get colder. So I called up the home warranty company and said, excuse me, I was kind of hoping somebody would come out and fix my heat. And they said, didn't he come out? I said, well, if he had, I don't think I'd be calling you right now asking about it, now would I? I mean, let's dissect this little question that we've got going on here. Did he not come out? Yes, he did. Oh, why am I calling? Oh, silly me. How about you actually send him out? I mean, like, really send him out so he can fix my goddamn heat, all right? So, they said, all right, we will. And I waited another couple of days. And I called them back. And I said, I still don't have any heat. And they said, didn't you come out? I said, we played this game before. I have an idea. Suppose you send him out to fix my heat, and in return, I will not crawl through this telephone line and eat your tonsils. I actually said that.
Oh, Jesus.
I remember saying that. It's ready? No, no YouTubing, thank you. Anyway. I gotta catch up. There's 3 bottles here I need to go through.
Oh, yes.
Well, having threatened them that way, that very evening, there was a knock on my door. And I opened the door, and there was old Smiling Joe. Smiling Joe comes in and he said, I'm here to fix your heater. I said, come again? He said, your heater, I'm here to fix it. I said, I have no idea what you just said, but if you can fix my heater, it'd be great. So he came in and he opened up the heater, he looked at me and he went, I see what your problem is here. This is the worst I've ever seen. Look at that, your punch puller circuit over there, it's completely corroded away, and the masturbator aid over here, it's just not masturbating, and up here, the upside down flip off overdrive, it's not doing nothing there. You're looking at an entirely new unit here, son. You're gonna have to replace this whole gold-darn thing. You're looking at about $3,500, $4,000. I said, really? I got blankets, I really don't mind. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go, I think I got myself a new punch puller circuit at home. I'll bring it on in here and I'll get me a little bit of heat going here, but you're gonna have to replace this thing. So he said, I'll be back tomorrow. That was the last I saw of him.
Oh, jeez.
With the temperature dropping down further and further and frost forming on the inside of the window, I called up the home warranty company and I said, okay, we're going to play a different game now. This game is called Uncle Kage Will Fuck You Up. I'm sorry, can I say that? It's 9:30 at night, you put me on late at night, this is what you get, you bastard. I said, put me on, I said, actually, if there is anybody under 18 in the audience, please make noise, say something, and I'll be good, honest.
Orlando.
Uh-oh.
Disney Town.
Anyway.
Disney Town.
So I said to them, you know what? I'm going to hire my own guy, and he's going to come out here, and he's going to fix the heat. And as for old Smiling Joe, I want you to deliver a message to him. The message is, I do not want to see him on my property ever again. As a matter of fact, if I clap eyes on him in any circumstance outside of here, I will not be responsible for what happens. Because I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. They said, we'll deliver the message, and I said, good. So I called up, Mr. Heaterman. Mr. Heaterman came out, and he opened it up, and he said, wow, I don't got any idea what old Smiling Joe was talking about. The putz puller circuit, it's pulling right there. Your masturbator rate over here, it's just bumping. I don't see any problem with that. Matter of fact, this unit looks like it's only about a year old. I said, okay, so what's the problem? He said, we got no heat.
Oh, shit.
Now think about it, that's more than Smiling Joe came up with. I said, so we're beginning to understand each other. Now you kind of realize why I asked you to come out and why there's frost on the inside of my window. So can you explain why I have no heat? You say, well, come on over here, let me show you something. See, the way this here thing works is you got this hot water coil up here, right? And there's hot water going through that coil. And the air is being blown up across that hot water coil, and then the air gets hot and it comes out. I said, oh, great, lesson in thermodynamics. I wish I was a scientist. Great, so can you tell me why it's not hot? He said, well, those coils aren't hot. I said, oh, we're getting somewhere. Can you fix it? He said, nope. Why not? Look at me. I'm old and frail. And it's so cold. There's frost at my windows. No one ever comes to visit me. I'll be like one of those stories you see in the news when they find the body 16 years later.
Come on.
He said, oh, now don't cry there, son. Now, I really would like to help you, but I can't. And I said, can you tell me why? Second Amendment. He said, well, those pipes, that's pipes with water in them. You need a plumber.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
So I called up the plumber triplets.
Oh, God.
I called them up, and they were there lickety split. The next day in comes Billy Bob, Bobby Bob, and Cletus. They came on there, and they said, yeah, we deal with the problem in there. The problem is that circulator pump in there. The problem is cavitate because they ain't got no air bubble in there. So the problem is we got an air bubble in there. The problem is then you got no cavitation. There's no water goes circulate around here. They'll be about $75. Okay. So you can fix it, right? They said, well, yeah, we just did. I said, well, what, by talking about it? Then they got the idea. So what they did was they said, okay, what we got to empty all the water out of the system and put new water in. Because that old water, that's just old, you know. You don't want no old water in there. It's past its expiration date or something. You know, kind of getting stale. You know, tastes a little gritty. They put some brand new water in there. I'll be damned, I had to eat after that. For about a month. Then, I noticed when the thermostat come on, it made a little click-click noise. Even the fan wasn't coming on.
Oh, shit.
So, I called up Mr. Heaterman. And I said, Mr. Heaterman, could you come back out here and maybe have a look, and since you did so good last time? So he came out, he took the front off, he said, oh, I see your problem. I said, what is it this time? He said, you probably want to take a look at this. The way you get the water out is there's a little valve up here, and you crank it open, and the water flows all out, and then you crank it closed, and the water doesn't flow out. Cranking it closed was apparently not on the agenda when Billy Bob, Bobby Bob, and Cletus were there. Because there was water trickling out of the thing. And, well, that water had to go somewhere. Well, underneath that, there is the fan. Anybody who's familiar with these things, they call it a squirrel cage fan. It's like a big squirrel cage, a big rotating thing like this. Well, it was filled up to the brim with water. And I'm sure for a while it must have looked like an old Mississippi powder wheeler. But then that's when the electric motor finally said, oh, there's water. I love this man. So I actually had to help him haul this thing out. There's about 2.5 gallons of water, and we dumped it out. And, well, he got it fixed, and I said, you know, I'm just having a little trouble with why the plumbing triplets didn't close that valve. And he said, it wasn't Billy Bob, Bobby Bob, and Cletus, was it? I said, funny you should mention that. So, yeah, those boys always forget something.
Oh, jeez.
But I had my heat. And as far as I know, I had air conditioning through the summer. Of course, I ain't been home for a few days, so we will see when I get home. Last thing I want is another flood. I had one of those. But that was kind of my introduction to North Carolina. Now, yes, the one person from North Carolina agrees. Now, many of you know that apart from wine, specifically German wine from the Mosel Valley, specifically German wine from the Mosel Valley no older than 3 years, specifically Riesling from the German Mosel Valley no older than 3 years, etc., etc. Whereas that's my favorite. My second favorite is Japanese sake.
Yeah.
So, there are some furries down there. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of furries down there. The Triangle Area Furs, they call themselves. The Triangle Furs, when they found out Uncle Kage was coming down, they was like, oh boy, Uncle Kage is coming down. Uncle Kage is moving to the Triangle. You're going to start a convention down there? I said, fuck no. One's enough, believe me. By the way, if you want me to stop doing that, just say something, okay? Until somebody stops me, I'm just going to keep going.
But we like it.
Wine.
We love it.
Well, these young fellas, they're very, very nice. They said, we know where there's a sake bar. I said,
Yeah.
politically correct, we ain't. So they said, there's a sake bar. We're going to take you there. It'll be great because you like sake. And they got sake. I said, oh, this is going to be wonderful. Take me to a sake bar. This is going to be great. So they took me there. North Carolina culture. North Carolina culture shock. Because we walked in and the waiter came up and I said, oh boy, I'm all excited. And he sat me down and I said, what kind of sake do you have? And with a really big smile he said, we have hot and cold. I kind of looked over at the boys and let me say it a little more slowly. What type of sake do you, what brewery, what prefecture? And he stared at me and he said, I'll go get the menu. I said, yeah, you do that. And I looked over at the boys. They didn't look at me. So we got to talking, and the waiter brought over the menu. There were exactly 4 sakes on the menu. 3 of them were bottom shelf rot gut California sakes. And one of them was kind of bottom shelf passable, get drunk on a Saturday night Japanese sakes. That was their ultra premium, high class, whoa, that was their good stuff. I said, all right, bring me the good stuff, okay? So I got to talking once again with the fellas. And when you get talking, you're paying attention and you don't really see what's going on in your periphery. In my periphery, I saw, the waiter came by and I saw a glass get put down and I saw a bottle produced in preparation for pouring, and I turned and I looked and I said, stop. What's that? Because protruding from the glass into which he was about to pour my sake was unmistakably a cucumber.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Just
And I stared at it. It was like, okay, where's the hidden camera? This must be a joke. Does anybody else see it? Am I hallucinating? Do I have the DTs?
it's an episode of Furry
I said to the guy,
Punks.
what's that? And he stared at me incredulously and he said, why, it's a cucumber. I said, oh, thank God. I thought it was a puppy. How amazing. It's great that we're on the same wavelength here. We really clicked, you and I. What the hell is a cucumber doing in my glass? And he said, didn't you want it? I said, well, okay. Okay, Cletus, let's talk about this for a second here, okay? I want you to imagine something. Imagine that I walk in to the finest French restaurant in New York City, and I take off my tuxedo jacket and I say, good afternoon, garçon. Very good to see you again. Yes, I'd like my usual table. Do kindly bring me a glass of Saint-Emilion, 1998, I should think. Oh, and be good enough to put a dead trout in it for me, would you? Just maybe run it through an old jockstrap a few times.
Jesus.
No, I don't want the cucumber. Get it out of there. cucumber, my goddamn son. I looked over again at the boys. The whole rest of the meal, they didn't look at me. Now, I forgave them. They're good fellas. They meant well. But I'm still looking in that part of North Carolina for where I can get some decent sake. I'm well cared for right now because the Japanese delegation at Amphicon saw to it that I'm not lacking for some time. And thanks to them for that.
Good times to be had.
That's why I like the Japanese folks so much. They bring me sake. And I think it's probably the reason why I so adore the Germans, because they turned me on to the wines of the Mosel Valley. So,
First one was free.
good music this.
Considering how much he drinks.
How many people have been to Eurofurence? Yeah, the guy in the front row has got his hand up. That's their chairman. Who has got the greatest name ever in furry fandom? This guy's parents predicted where he would be, his position.
I know it.
Sitting in the front row, ladies and gentlemen, may I present Mr. Sven Take It Off. The first thing Sven did, he had me as a guest at Eurofurence 12 years ago, something hideous like that. The first thing he did when he greeted me was he rolled in a keg of wine. I never knew wine came in a keg.
Get the hell out of here!
And the thing was, you know, I could barely finish it. If I remember, it was that evening that by the end of the night, I was forgetting how to speak English. And I slipped into French and couldn't remember what the words were supposed to be. Funny thing is, the French people could understand me.
How was there no video of that?
It was the next year at Eurofurence that they gave me another keg of wine.
Oh shit.
I was able to finish that one. And, well, when you drink that much wine, especially German wine, it does something to your judgment. They had a glass about the size of this entire container. And that evening, after that keg of wine, I thought it would be a good idea to fill that with equal parts red wine, Jägermeister, and absinthe.
What the hell?
The next morning, I woke up dead.
Oh my god.
The next thing I remember is that I was in a wooden box on a ship being sent back to the States. That's actually not true, but it's close to it. Now, the Germans, you think, would know that Uncle Kage occasionally likes to drink wine. Especially at Eurofurence, where I can get this easier than I can get water. This is €4. A bottle of water is €4.50.
Oh my god.
I'm not paid a lot, so I have to economize. So we're talking breakfast, lunch, dinner, brushing my teeth, taking a shower, you name it, it's all this. So usually by about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm already done. But I wouldn't want to be dehydrated, so I just keep going. Germans are a very, very intelligent people, but every once in a while they still screw up royally. You can just ask Poland about that. But anyway.
Ouch. Warsaw blockade, anybody?
I was enjoying my stay at Eurofurence. And It was, okay, I could remember how to speak English, but I was having trouble remembering walking. And I'm going through the lobby, like, they had lines. I'm like, okay, that's good, yeah, okay. This will lead me to my room, I'm sure. It's going in that direction. And one of their senior people came up and said, oh, Uncle Kage, I want you to talk to someone.
Oh, that's fun. That's good.
Talk. Wait, bring this with me.
Oh shit.
This is gonna
Where is this guy? Where is he?
This is gonna
Oh, the cute little guy. Hi. Dude! Oh, God! I love that mustache. That is so freaking... It ain't as good as Hitler's, but dude, I could rock that mustache. I could have sex with that mustache.
Oh my god. That's bad.
My German's not very good. But when the gentleman leaned to me and whispered, Das ist der Bürgermeister von Magdeburg.
Oh shit.
German speakers out there, yes, this is the mayor of Magdeburg.
Oh my god.
I found out how to sober up very quickly.
Yeah.
Ah, really?
Herr Bürgermeister.
Herr Bürgermeister, it's very good to meet you. Do you speak English? He said, Nein. I said, good.
understand it, though.
I only told Sven about that just the other day. So he's still recuperating.
I think that you might be banned now.
What?
You're going to be banned for that now.
What, banned from Euroferns?
Yeah.
That's all right, I'll just sit outside and drink. See, I learned enough German, I don't need them anymore. I learned how to say Wein, Weißwein, mir Weißwein, Weißwein für mich, bitte, Weißwein jetzt, bitte, Weißwein jetzt, bitch! I really feel guilty because I'm sure that when I'm over there, it's the worst week for Sven. But fate makes sure that it comes back on me. Because remember old North Carolina? It was not too long ago that I had what I suspect I could call the worst week of my life.
Oh shit.
That drink at Euroferns with the absent notwithstanding. This is back in the springtime of this year.
Temperament for life.
Thank you, flashback. It all started when I was introduced to one of Raleigh's finest. Finest what? I ain't gonna say. You see, having been to Germany as often as I have, I've gotten used to what they call the Autobahn. And there's no speed limits on that. Now, when you get to be my age, you tend to forget things. And, well, I forgot that there's speed limits.
Oh shit.
Now, I still say this was entrapment. It was a motorcycle cop. I'm looking for a big Dodge Charger with lights on it, and this guy comes in and pull over. So he pulled me over. No, he wasn't Asian, no. Smoking the band music here, that's what.
Yes.
So, he said, do you know how fast you were going? And I said, are we talking exactly how fast or a rough ballpark? And he said, let's just put it this way. Do you realize that you were driving relatively fast? And I said, well, apparently not fast enough to outrun you. Near as I can tell, this was the wrong thing to say. Because he handed me a $200 ticket. Ooh. Ow. I see that. He handed me a $200 ticket, and that kind of hurt, but I was expecting, back in the fall, a very, very substantial tax refund. Because, you know, I moved in a new job and everything, and I'd done a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation. I thought I was getting back a very tidy lump sum of money. So that $200, okay, that's going to bite into it, but I'm still going to have enough money to buy all the wine I want at Eurofurnace. It was shortly after that when I got to thinking about Eurofurnace. I thought, ooh, you know, they got this thing with our immigration called global entry. Basically, you fill out an application that says, I am neither one, an Arab, two, a terrorist. And you send them $100, and they send you a little certificate that says, certified not a terrorist. And it allows you to bypass a lot of the security coming back into the country. Well, I wanted that, and apparently all I had to do was give them my passport number and tell them my address. Because no Arab terrorist anywhere is going to have an address in this country. He's going to put down an address in Beirut, and then they'll catch him. And he'll be like, damn it. So I got on my passport, okay, here's my passport number. Tappity, 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 here's my address. Oh, $100, okay. All right, we'll use the direct debit from the bank account, which is already hurting $200. All right, we'll get another 100. And I sent that off. And about 3 days later or so, I got an email from them saying, okay, we have conditionally approved your application. We just have to have a face-to-face interview. Or face-to-face interview, now this is getting serious. And they said, make sure you bring your passport. That's not a problem, it's was here. Under, what the hell? It's here 3 days ago, I know. And I'm looking all around, I'm picking stuff up on the desk, shuffling through the papers, starting to get rather nervous. I practically dismantled the desk. I pulled it away from the wall. I looked behind it, was looking down underneath everything, looking under the carpet, trying not to look at the wastebasket, which is sitting right here, underneath the little area where I put the passport. And after about 2 whole days, I finally had to admit, having turned my place completely upside down, it's gone. Well, if I don't get this global entry thing and I don't have this face-to-face meeting with my passport, I'll have wasted another $100. So I went to the post office and I said, I need a new passport. And the lady said, well, you've got to call this number and make an appointment. Okay. Bureaucracy, I'm not unaccustomed to that, because I've got English ancestry. So, what? Yeah, but you know how the English are about bureaucracy. I'm trying to be like homie, yo, my brother with you here, and it's just not working. Yes, yo, fisticuffs. Anyway. So I called this telephone number, and I got a recording saying, hello, please leave your name and phone number and we'll call you back. Okay, they must be out to lunch. So I called the number, and I left my name and number, and by the end of the day, I still hadn't called back. And the next morning, they hadn't called back, so I drove by the post office. And I said to the lady, they didn't call back. She said, oh, it can take up to a week.
What the?
I said, wait a minute. It can take up to a week to get an appointment to come and see you, which I have just done. And she said, yeah. And I burst into tears. And I said, but I'm going to be having this interview with the global entry people, and I need the passport. What am I going to do? Because I already wasted my $100, and I don't want to, can you help me, please? So she said, well, I've got a little bit of time this morning. If you can get me your passport information, I'm going to need your birth certificate, I'm going to need your driver's license and all this stuff. If you can get that to me like in the next 10 minutes, I can fit you in. So I said, great, hopped in my car, went tearing down the road exactly 35 miles an hour. Got my birth certificate, got all my stuff together, went back, and I handed it to her and I said, and here is my birth certificate. And she looked at me and she said, oh, that's no good. Well, what? No, here, look at it. She said, yes, I know, we can't use that. I said, well, I can prove I was born.
I'm standing right here.
Look, see? See? Solid. Right? Right? I am here. You know, I've got 23 chromosomes from each parent. In honest, I'm not going to show them to you, but because I'd have to pull down my genes, but that's a science joke. But I'm bummed.
There's no drum sound in this.
Sorry. Anyway, so I burst into tears again, and I said, what do you mean it's not good? I'm telling you, I'm born. Apparently, in the state of Pennsylvania in the 1960s, they didn't think it was a necessary piece of information to put down the parents' names on the birth certificate. And apparently, you need to have that today. They want to make sure mom's name was not Akbar or something like that. So I said, what am I supposed to do? I can't get another birth certificate in the next 10 minutes. And she said, do you have an old passport? Oh, yes, I do. That ancient passport with the picture that makes me look like I'm 11 years old? Yeah, I got that one. So I went dashing back home at exactly 35 miles an hour. Now, I had only just moved. And you know how it is when you just move, you still have like 75 boxes still packed? They weren't packed after the next 10 minutes. They just all got unpacked in the middle of the living room floor. And the old passport dropped out of the last box on top of the pile. So I reached up, grabbed it, and again, 35 miles an hour, back to the post office. And I gave it to her. And she said, okay, we can process it. With the rush fees and everything, that'll be $195.
Oh my God.
Really? She said, well, yeah, you need a rush, don't you? And I said, well, can you just kind of gently hurry it along instead of rushing? She said, no, it'll have to be $195, son, unless you want to make an appointment on the phone. I said, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. So I paid her the $195. Okay, so I'm down 200, I'm down 100, I'm down 195. This is kind of starting to hurt, but I got a big tax return coming. Okay, at least I got that. So I had my face-to-face interview, and I walked into the place with my brand new passport, and the guy came in, he had this clipboard, and he looked at me, and he checked the box, not Arab, and handed me my global entry card. Great, wonderful. When I get back from Eurofurence, I'll be able to just walk through just covered with wine bottles, and no one's going to ask me any questions. I got home that very afternoon. And, well, there was an envelope from my accountant. Real big, thick envelope. And I said, oh boy, this is what I've been waiting for, all the paperwork. Well, Mom and Dad sent me to school for chemistry, not for mathematics. I'd apparently forgot to carry a zero or didn't integrate the area under the curve or something like that. I didn't actually have a big tax return coming. It was more like I owed the government $3,000.
Oh, God. Oh, shit.
And I'm looking at this letter in shock and horror. And it says at the bottom, please remit $3,000 plus to the government. You also owe us $150 for doing your taxes. P.S. Why exactly did you send us your passport?
Damn.
So, when I go to Eurofurence this year, I'm not going to have any money to buy wine.
I think he's trying to tell you something. I think he's trying to tell you.
I'm looking at you, Sven. I'm sure he will help.
Yeah. Or 5.
You know, A lot of you know that I tend to fly a lot. Not myself, I didn't mean an airplane. Then again, I fly very, very much, mostly for furry conventions. You know, work, they never send me anywhere cool. Furry conventions, they send me all sorts of cool places. So I tend to build up a lot of frequent flyer miles, and that gives me that seat up front, you know, the airplane seat that looks like this, the one where you sit down and you're like, ah, there. And the thing is, you're up front, and all the people boarding, they get to walk by. There is that unspoken rule that you're not supposed to look them in the eye. Nah, not me. I'm a big dick. I'm like,